Alright guys, we are here today with a competitive Modern League for Black Red Hollow one. And this is match 1, game 1. Looking at this opening hand, we have a couple street race. Maybe we could find something good, but I was just a little worried we were, not going to have a lot here and maybe not even be able to cast this Gurmag very soon. So I ended up mulling this hand, and you'll see that we ended up here. And I do feel like this is a worse hand, so I don't want to go to 5 though, so let's keep that. So we see a Blood Crypt on top, and we are going to put that on the bottom because we have 2 lands and we're kind of looking for some actual action here. We are not on the play, but our opponent plays a Creeping Tar Pit, so probably some kind of like blue-black control, maybe Esper control, something like that. Now off the top we find a Goblin Lore. That's honestly not a whole lot. We're going to play Blood Crypt, not even leave it up for that Lightning Bolt, because our opponent doesn't seem to be in colors that are really going to be colors I would need to cast a Lightning Bolt with. And then we find an Arid Mesa, another land. Again, not quite what we're looking for, but we have the mana available that we can just play Goblin Lore. We're going to re-roll our hand, see what we find. And we actually get a Phoenix in the graveyard and a Tazgur in hand. That is not bad at all. We're going to be able to play that Tazgur. We're going to get that Phoenix back and maybe find a way to get that other Phoenix too. And look at that. There is a Faithless Looting. That's perfect. And by the way, we have seen our opponent has played a Plains at this point, meaning we are probably looking at Esper. We have plenty of lands in hand to discard now along with that Phoenix, so we're not worried about discarding something important. So we can power out the Tazgur right here. We can play this Phoenix in the same turn. So we can get him on the field, go to combat, crack our fetch. Now we have 2 Phoenixes in the graveyard, obviously can only play one of them, and we do get half to exiled on the Tazgur though, so that's pretty unfortunate because that was one of the big plays we had going for us. Our hand doesn't have a whole lot in it now. But luckily, one upside with this deck is having these randomized discard spells like Goblin Lore means your hand can go from nothing to something really quickly. So we're going to see what our opponent plays here, and that is an Ashiok. Now that is an unusual card to see here in Modern. At least, personally, I've never played against it before, so I had to read this card to see what it does. Its +2 is exiling 3 cards of an opponent's library. Its -X lets it take one of those creatures it's exiled and put it on the field, and then its -10, its ult, is exile all cards from opponents' hands and graveyards. So a pretty interesting card there that it just kind of threw me off. Not a card I was expecting to see. Now they exiled some cards here, and I'll open up these window panes. You can see they just exiled some lands and Burning Inquiry, so we don't have much to worry about. And we'll actually find out that if they exile a creature with it, it goes under Ashiok here, so we don't have to kind of keep track of that over in our our exiled cards pile. Alright, so they're going to pass their turn. We are going to go ahead and put this Flameblade Adept on the field. With it being our one and only threat, I would like to make sure I do not discard it away to Goblin Lore. And even though we're not really going to get the full use out of this Flameblade pumping this turn, we're going to go ahead and play that Goblin Lore in the hopes that we can get both of those Phoenixes back, which we should be able to, barring something crazy happening with our opponent's 1 colorless mana there. So we're going to get both of Phoenixes on the field and a Bloodghast that can't attack, doesn't have haste because our opponent is on far too much life right now. And these guys are going to go ahead and attack in. Now, at this point, I go ahead and hit Ashiok. I feel like that was probably the wrong decision, but I was just a little bit worried, like, what is this card doing for them, right? I felt like there was a reason and some greater utility than what it looked like on its face. It did get a Bloodghast this turn, so that's important to note. And we draw a Bloodghast off of our own draw with a Faithless Looting in hand, so that just makes everything work great. Now, we do get our Flameblade Adept push, so it can't get use of the discard ability, but that's fine. We have a Gurmag in hand and a Lightning Bolt in case we need it. Now, I send one thing the way of that Ashiok, get it killed, play my land in main 2, and grab that Bloodghast back to the field. They have Search for Azcanta out at this point, and they decide to go ahead and flip it, being able to dig for whatever they need. Now, passing this turn, they do have 4 mana up, which is pretty scary, I'm not going to lie. I feel like they got something to do, but it's worth noting they do not have the ability to play Cryptic Command, one of probably the bigger threats against me at this point. Well, I mean, it's not even a huge threat, it would just tap down my team, right? But maybe like countering the Gurmag or something like that would be bad. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and activate, what are we casting here? A Faithless Looting from the graveyard. so that we can just kind of cycle through a little bit more, get more cards in there for the Gurmag, and we still have up 2 mana. That's really probably all we need this turn. So we're going to go ahead and swing in with everything. We don't want to play that Gurmag main 1, just because if they did have like a Cryptic Command or something, which again they don't, they would get to tap down our team and counter it, instead of just tapping down our team and drawing a card, and we still get to play the Gurmag. Now there is a Vendilion click, so I'm looking at my hand this point thinking, oh, I'm going to lose my Gurmag or something, right? That's unfortunate. But they actually target themselves with Vendilion click, looking for a little bit of useful cards for their hand here. And what I do decide to do, instead of losing one of my attackers to this, is I'm going to just bolt their click. Because in all reality, they're going to be blocking a Flamewake Phoenix, and at this point, since I was thinking, oh, they're going to grab my Gurmag, I wasn't sure if I was going to have a way to get 4 power on the field to grab one of those Phoenixes back. So, not sure if bolt was the right call there, but it did allow me to get in for 8 and take them to 8. So it was a nice little swing there. And again, they're passing their turn with the same mana up. I top deck a Street Wraith, so I'm going to go ahead and cycle that, find another land, and at this point I'm just going to say let's smash in and hope my opponent doesn't have anything. We're just going to take this game out of nowhere, right? But of course they are tapping some mana. They're going to grab a Snapcaster Mage, and they're going to grab Path to Exile from their graveyard. So we are probably going to be losing, oh, not a Flamewake Phoenix, we're going to be losing a Bloodghast. That decision kind of surprised me a little bit. But it just felt like the Phoenix was a little bit more of a threat being in the air. But they do go ahead and block the Bloodghast, get it in the graveyard, which I will be able to get back this turn, barring something unforeseen happening. And they Thought Scour. Alright, so at this point in main 2, we're going to go ahead and play the Flameblade Adept. We decide not to play the Angler. I feel like there's a chance this deck is playing some like Supreme Verdicts or something, and I don't want to be completely blown out by that, and I want to be able to have that Gurmag so that I can grab the Phoenixes on my next turn. Now they play a Tazagur of their own here, which, well, at this point it doesn't present a lot of threats because we have the 4 damage we need in the air, but presumably they're going to have something to do about that. So we're going to cast Faithless Looting. We're just going to see what we find. We actually discard the Hollow One and the Flameblade Adept just because the other cards in our hand are so much better. Because we actually find a Bloodghast with this, or a land that we can play the Bloodghast with, because that is going to allow, even if they have a Path to Exile or something like that, we're still going to have enough damage coming in on the ground that we can get around the Tazagur in addition to coming in the air. So it's going to require multiple removal spells. Now this Snapcaster Mage is grabbing a Hollow One, or a Fatal Push, so that definitely has the ability to do it, but wait a minute, they just targeted the Phoenix with the Fatal Push. That's not going to be enough because they haven't lost a permanent this turn, so that was a looking like a misplay from my opponent. However, even if they could have targeted the Phoenix and killed it, at this point in time, with Flameblade Adept having Menace, one of these Phoenixes was going to get in, and one of these creatures was guaranteed to get in as well. So we would have been winning the game on this turn, even if that Fatal Push would have worked, or even if that Fatal Push would have hit a creature that it could have killed. So that is game 1, and we're going to go into game 2. Alright, here we are with game 2 of our match against what looks to be Esper Control. And let's see what my opening hand is here. I am on the draw. We have, Flameblade Adept on turn 1. Maybe we'll cycle that Street Wraith, see what we find, but we do have Goblin Lore to kind of pump it a bit, so not looking bad. Looks like a keep. And our opponent, same play as first time, Creeping Tar Pit turn 1. So we do go ahead and just play that Flameblade Adept. Now I know you might potentially want to play that Street Wraith there, see if you can draw into some kind of action, but I like the idea of just getting that little bit of extra value turn 2. I don't think there's any way I could actually play like a Hollow One turn 1 or anything like that, so that's okay with me. But the Adept does end up eating a Fatal Push, unfortunately, and we do top deck a Thoughtseize here, so that's kind of interesting to me. Now I'm going to go ahead and cycle the Street Wraith anyway, and look at that, there's a Hollow One, so this definitely changes things. So right now I'm thinking, can I play this Hollow One this turn? I've discarded 1 card. If I can discard 1 more off of 1 mana, maybe, and then a crazy thought occurs to me here. I crack this Arid Mesa, and I grab a Blood Crypt, and I'm going to play Thoughtseize, but not on my opponent, on myself. Because if I play Thoughtseize on myself, I can discard that Phoenix that I can get back with the Hollow One next turn, and I will be able to play the Hollow One for 1 mana. Now, my opponent, I don't think, realizes this. They just got ready to cast something from their hand, but they realize the Thoughtseize is actually targeting myself. Now, maybe this is the craziest play I've ever made. It honestly might be. That may have been just a stupid, stupid play. But I wanted to get this Hollow One on the field this turn. I wanted to find a way to do it. And they do go ahead and Thought Scour themselves. I get Hollow One on the field. I'm excited about that. That is awesome. So we go on to their third turn. They pass on 2 lands. They seem to be stuck a bit on mana, so that is a good sign for me. Now I'm going to go ahead and play this Collector Brutality, because this is going to give me the chance to get something out of their hand that I didn't get to do with Thoughtseize last turn. But look at this hand. No instants and sorceries on what seemingly is like a controlling kind of deck. No instants and sorceries. Also worth noting, only 1 card they can cast, and that is Snapcaster Mage. Tazagur, Kitchen Finks, Ashiok, none of those can actually come down right now. So I do get to do the Drain and Gain ability on Collective Brutality, but that is really all it's good for, other than getting to see my opponent's hand here. So we're going to go ahead and smash in with Hollow One for 4. We're not going to be able to get that Phoenix back this turn, unfortunately, but that's okay. We can grab it next turn. So my opponent does seem to find a land off the top of their deck, grabs a Hollowed Fountain with the Flooded Strand, and they are going to put out, surprising me a little bit, Ashiok. I thought Tazagur was going to come down. Tazagur seemed like a good play. They had 3 mana here. They had 3 cards in the graveyard. They could have played it, and it would have blocked my Hollow One very nicely. But Ashiok actually just exiles a couple cards and grabs a Bloodghast. So at this point in time, I feel like I should be playing the Phoenix, but I actually decided to go ahead and play Goblin Lore, looking for that land, thinking surely I'll find a land. But I do not find it. I end up being tapped out, not being able to cast my Phoenix, and I just smash in, and I hit their face, because at this point I realized Ashiok is not that scary, right? They end up finding the second Bloodghast when activating their Ashiok, and they're casting another 3-mana spell, which ends up being Tazagur. So there is Tazagur. I top deck a Flameblade Adept, and I am going to go ahead and play this other Goblin Lore because I'm realizing at this point I think I want this second Phoenix in the graveyard, which, FYI, of course, since it's here now, it didn't go there. And I would also like to find a land because attacking in the air seems like my main option now. Now, luckily, I do have 2 Bloodghasts in the yard, so I get them both back. They're with haste because my opponent's at 7. I have the mana to get 1 Phoenix out, and look at this. I'm going to attack with all here, even though my Hollow One is going to be eaten by Tazagur, because I'm still getting through for 6, and it takes them to 1. And with another Phoenix in my hand, having haste, of course, and 3 mana on the field, I feel like even if they decimate my board right here, I'm in a pretty good spot for being able to play the Phoenix next turn and just attack in the air for what I need. They did exile a Gurmag Angler off their Ashiok on that turn, but that is really all that happened for them, along with playing that Shambling Vents. I get a Flameblade Adept off the draw, and I decide they haven't played anything, and I feel like they'd have to remove 2 creatures to win this. I don't want to risk my Phoenix, a card that could potentially win it for me next turn if something happens this turn, on, some sort of removal or maybe a board wipe if they end up having something crazy that I'm not expecting. Now, they do have a Snapcaster Mage, but, well, my Phoenix should still get through. They don't have any cards in the graveyard to target with it, and just to be safe, I'm going to target it with the Fatal Push in my hand because I have the mana open. They go ahead and scoop to that, seeing the writing on the wall, and we get match 1. All right, 1-0 in competitive Modern, on to match 2.